Hello, welcome to Winners and Losers. As you gathered, I'm not Gav, because Gav's getting everything sorted. So today I'm joined by Pete, and as you may have noticed, Andy's back. What more can you want out of life? How you doing, Andy?
Oh, good.
Excellent, excellent. Pete, how are you?
Cannot complain. Near the complaint.
Excellent, excellent. Right, so Winners and Losers. So I've not done this before, so we'll see how it goes. So everyone's know about Pete. Pete's the expert on this. So along the gist of, we give the guys a choice. They're going to give us one winner, one loser, and then we'll have a bit of a chat around it. So, Pete, as you're the veteran of this show, who's going to give me your winner or your loser?
I think we should start with something controversial.
That's not like you.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a clear winner, as I always do. Most viewers that tune into us, with the Winners and Losers show, would know what I'd normally pick, different angles of our special club. But I want to start with the loser, and I think the biggest loser for me this weekend was certainly not just Manchester City, but Pep Guardiola. And listen, for a multitude of for one specific reason, anybody that follows me on Twitter will know. I mean, I'm a huge football fan in general. However, and I like the showbiz element of football, like we all do. We like to see a good show, but I'm just sick and tired. I don't know if anybody else is. I'm sick and tired of watching when Alvarez scores their equaliser. There's about 5.5 minutes of VAR time, if you will, just dead time. Now that was more than enough time for Josep Guardiola to pull Alvarez aside and do a little bit of coaching off camera. Everybody's looking at screens, everybody's wondering what's going to happen. But he actually waits the 5 minutes until the cameras are on the goal scorer to pull him aside and show the whole bloody world how great a coach he is, and gives him a little coaching session on it was a good goal you've done, but if you do this and it's really starting. I know our rival fans will hit back at me and say, but Klopp and his hugs, but that's more spontaneity. It's more a genuineness of who Klopp is. And it's not something that Klopp does. It's something that Klopp does irrespective of whether the cameras are on or not. He doesn't care who's watching. But I just find the calculated nature of Pep's look at me and my philosophy, and look at me how I'm never satisfied. And he chooses the moments when other coaches would celebrate to show that that's not good enough in his philosophy, that he still sees something wrong, even though they've done something that would please a mortal coach. So for me, the whole showmanship and, quite honestly, bullshit, I've just had enough of it. And listen, I live here, live in Barcelona. I play with lads, and I know lads who are big fans of Pep Guardiola, both when he was a player and now as a manager. But to be honest with you, I'm just sick of the bullshit. I'm sick of the show. I'm sick to death of watching how Pep Guardiola, the master coach, when other coaches would be ecstatic and doing hula hoops and jumping over each other to celebrate, how he's not satisfied and he still needs to show his dissatisfaction. So for me, the big loser of the weekend for me is just the Pep Guardiola show, to be honest.
Fair enough. Andy, I mean, I don't know what you thought. I did see that bit and thinking, you are being a bit of a fun sponge there. Let the lad have his moments. As actually L points out, interesting comparison on Twitter, because Klopp's reaction to Darwin's first goal is just joyous, but striker's got his first goal. Because to be fair to Alvarez, I thought Alvarez actually was really impressive. Probably more impressive than Haaland on the day. But as much as I get why it winds Pete up, but that's kind of how he is, and he would probably argue results speak for itself, and 90% of the time.
He lost.
No, but 90% of the time, he'll say, I've lost the Community Shield, big deal, but I'm back-to-back league champion, and I get most things right, to be fair, with being this very overbearing, over-dominant character. So how do you see it, Andy? Is it just that's just the way he is, or is it a bit more of an act?
I'll be less wound up about it there than Pete will be. I think it is the way he is. He craves the attention. He's kind of the opposite to Klopp. And when we get on to my loser, we'll talk a little bit how the two teams are opposites as well. But he just likes the attention. He's as much as he's won there at City, he still feels like he's in Klopp's shadow. I think he would love to have what Liverpool have. He would love to have that connection with the fans. And look, this is his way. This is where he acts out. It doesn't necessarily bother me too much, but Pete makes some very valid points there as well.
Fair enough. Okay, so Andy, what's your winner, and what gives either your winner or your loser? Which one are you going to give us?
Okay, well, we might as well continue giving out about City while we're at it.
Oh, go down for a peak.
Yeah, and then we get on to some positive stuff. Look, we can talk about the insignificance of the Community Shield. It's a friendly, and it's for charity, and and it means nothing. But
is it for charity?
I don't know. Yeah. Is it? It used to be called a Charity Shield.
It did. Apparently, there's a reason why it's now called the Community Shield.
Because it doesn't go to charity. Yeah, right.
Or not as much goes as people would think. That is apparently the latest I've heard about.
It.
That's why it's renamed. That's what I've heard. That's what I've read. So,
but anyway, no, we get told that it's a friendly anyway. And look, if that's the case, why did the City fans celebrate their equaliser the way they did, like it was a cup final? Why does the usual shite come up on Twitter from opposition fans about the victims thing and all that trolling? Why are opposition fans so bothered? Don't get me wrong, I love the way there are opposition fans are so torn when it comes to us. Like, they admire our football, they envy our manager, they want to be us. But if it's such a meaningless friendly, why did the City players refuse to collect their medals on the pitch? They know it meant something, and we know it meant something. Sunday was an opportunity to lay down a marker. We did it, and they felt it. And I think, by them not collecting the medal, it just, it's just sums them up perfectly. They're so entitled, it's incredible. And, Pep instills this kind of really nasty trait in them. So that's why they're, my loser this week, because they're the opposite to us. We would have shown way more dignity. Klopp is very specific about once you've lost a game, you go up, you feel like it, you get to feel what like it is to lose, that you come back and bounce back a bit stronger. So I think it just sums that club up perfectly, the lack of sportsmanship that I suppose that they show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way to look at it, Pete, just from this point of view, is I still think community charity, it is a fairly insignificant thing. If you finish these from the Charity Shield, you're a bit like, who gives a shit? I think it means more because of who you're playing. I think if we'd have beaten Arsenal or Tottenham or in the Charity Shield, I don't think you'd give a shit. And actually, if Tottenham or Arsenal had beaten City, I don't think they'd give a shit. They probably would have collected the medals. Yeah, so I wonder if it was a way of City thinking it's a way of showing defiance, going, this doesn't bother us, it's meaningless. But may have had the opposite effect of going, you've sort of shown your hand going, that means a lot. That means a lot, actually. And that hurts. And listen, there's nothing wrong with saying that hurts, because the two clubs over the last 5 years, been not very much between them in most years. So it does hurt when they beat each other. But have they possibly just shown the hand a bit too soon there?
Listen, I think Andy's got a point. I think he's got a huge point, to be honest with you. For me, I always hark back to the time in Manchester City. Not only the fans online, or not only the fans who go to games, but the club itself launched a massive poster campaign to talk about formidables. Now, one of those trophies, so-called, or prizes that made them the formidables was actually the Charity Shield, and it was up there, printed on a poster for everyone to see. Now, listen, I'm in your camp. It's it's not if we won the Charity Shield every year, by virtue of the fact of not winning the trophy, like finishing runners up in the league and finishing runners up in the FA Cup final, I wouldn't be happy. However, you cannot have your cake and eat it if you're Manchester City or Manchester City fans. And another stick that's used to beat us across the back is by Manchester United fans. I mean, we're 3 or 4 trophies, I think, clear now in terms of major trophies won. But they always try to drag it around to the fact that, including their charity shields, they've actually got more prizes, if you will. So again, rival fans can't have their cake and eat it. And with regards to the game itself, and in other countries, one of the lads in the comments made the point, and a good point, that in other countries it's a Super Cup, but it's also a key indicator at this stage of the season. Have you bought well? Have you brought players in that are strengthening your side? And both sets of players in the teams are acutely aware of what's at stake. Also, to add to the fact, there was an extra bit of edge to it. Now, listen, I don't judge players, by one game, but you can't ignore the Nunez versus Haaland thing that's been going on for a while. And to be honest with you, both players would have been acutely aware. You've seen it in Nunez's celebration, but you also seen it in the nerves that Haaland showed in the missing of his chances and his touch. I mean, he looked to me like, Romelu Lukaku on a really, really bad day. Plus, I mean, there's a lot of people, for me, I think the lad's a goal machine and he will score goals. But at the end of the season, I think when we look back, it might cost the signing of him and persisting with him whereas he'll score a lot of goals, it might be a Harry Kane situation whereby the team might suffer. He'll score goals. He might get your 3s and 4s against Nottingham Forest, etc. But in the big games, when you need to hold on to the ball and, that 2 or 3 lapses in concentration in the final third, holding on possession, might actually cost them. So to be honest, personally, I'm glad, that he's there and not with us, for example. Whereas you can see what Klopp is trying to do with Nunez, trying to make him responsible for the ball in the final third, trying to bring him into the way we harass, close people down, and he is responsible for possession. Whereas Haaland looked to me to be all over the place. And to me, I know it was a Charity Shield game, but it looked like a competitive game to me where you could judge a couple of players.
The only thing you would say is the intrigue for Liverpool and City is it's a while since we played with a proper number 9. It is a while. I mean, I think all the years Pep Guardiola's been a manager, is it only Lewandowski where he's had a out number 9? Barcelona, it was Messi. I mean, he had Henry, but he played Henry as a winger. City, probably Aguero, but I mean, Aguero was, not your archetypal number 9. He was a goal machine, but he was a whole lot more. Klopp has played with a number 9 a bit more in his Dortmund days, but again, it was Lewandowski and things like that. So it's just interesting. It's a little bit of a break from what people would consider the norm for these two coaches. So, and for City, I always think Pep Guardiola, if you give him the choice, he'd play with 11 midfielders. That's kind of probably his dream. So he is giving up a little bit of control, I think, not having a number 9. Now listen, he's bought a number 9 that scores goals for fun. But I do wonder how they'll adapt to having one less midfielder, because there's no way you're going to see Haaland dropping in as a 10 and linking play, which is fine because that's not his game. I don't expect to see Nunez dropping in as a 10 linking play either, to be fair. That's not really his game. They're both on-the-shoulder strikers, so it's quite a good thing to see. Dan Jay says Latin at Barcelona, and it didn't work. It didn't, and he binned him off.
And
very, very
Zlatan
quickly.
Ibrahimovic, by the way, had something like 26 goals by Christmas, or I think he had 26 goal contributions. He had at least 17. And
he didn't buy into the bar, so he didn't buy into the bar. The way that they would.
Pep got him. Well, the thing was, at the time, Messi wanted to play through the middle, and Zlatan plays through the middle. So I think Pep always was going to favour Messi. But it was interesting. Zlatan wasn't a fader at Barcelona. It was just a matter of, are we better on the ball with or without him? And I think it might. I'm not comparing Haaland to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It's a bit of a misnomer. But it might end up being the same thing. I mean, you might look at Haaland's stats at Christmas and think, this guy's got 16 goals, and yet he's in and out of the side. I think the point,
I'll give him his credit. Kevin Sullivan still is of the greatest belief that the one to watch is Alvarez. Alvarez might be more of a Guardiola striker than we realise, and it seems that if he does become what he could become, he's a bit of a steal at 16 million, clever find. So, Pete, who is your winner then? Let's go to some positivity. Come on, who's your winner?
For me, Liverpool and Liverpool's attitude, the Liverpool attitude to every single game. To be honest, I know we've touched on this, but you can see what Klopp looks for in players. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nunez, for me, a lot of work to do. He's a kid. I look at him and I see a kid. But you can see how hungry he is to please and how hungry he is to get it right. Normally, for example, if a player he's already gotten 3 or 4 dressing downs on the pitch from the likes of Thiago for not making his runs right in the friendly, for example, and he stood there, kind of nodding his head, no attitude, and you can see he's trying to apply those lessons to his game, and you can see it all over the park. The aggressive running again. It never stops. Now, I just think, I can only compare it to what Manchester United are trying to do right now. They're trying to throw 100 million quid at Anthony, who's never proved anything at any level, to be honest with you. They're trying to organise to pay 20 million quid directly to the kid, De Jong from Barcelona, to sort out his problems with Barcelona. It seems to me they're still trying to shoehorn individuals to solve a collective problem at the club. Liverpool Football Club don't do that. They look first at your attitude and what you can bring to the collective. And I just don't understand why everybody else doesn't try to emulate that. They don't seem to be trying. So for me, the winner, again, after what I've seen at the weekend, is just, again, relentless hunger, drive, attitude. Every even a meaningless friendly. For example, we were getting beaten by Red Bull Salzburg in a nothing friendly, and Klopp's having an argument with the referee over nothing. But I think deliberately he might do that to kind of show the guys, listen, just in case you forgot, everything counts. And I just think he's the master of it. The boys he brings in are just there in terms of being competitive. Everything matters. And I haven't seen it, not in my lifetime. Even the great Liverpool sides that I started watching at the end of the 80s as a kid, you always got the feeling against, for example, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, you might be, Andy, but we'd go 1-0. we'd go 1-0 down against the likes of Derby County, for example, when they were in the first division, and it would take us an hour to wake up. Now, I know that happens the odd time now with us, but now I just find that I've never seen the Liverpool side to take everything so seriously. Everything, the toss of, and I think it's down to the likes of James Milner, bringing fellas like that in that absolutely bleed that to other players, and that's now the standard. And I just don't understand. I don't know why Manchester United, with all the money in the world that they have, want to throw money at a kid who's digging his heels in at Barcelona over 17 million or whatever million quid. I don't understand. That doesn't say hunger to me. Hunger to me says what our players seem to say is, I want to play for Liverpool, and you've seen it in the charity community shield, whatever it is. You just see it, and you can't match. And the minute Klopp sees that you've lost that hunger, which Mane probably had, and none of us really cottoned on. He just wanted a new challenge, and fair play to him, he deserved one. But the minute he sees it, that's it, you're out, and somebody else hungry comes in and takes your place. For me, that's what makes Liverpool and that relentless hunger for success the winner of the week.
Andy, some of it a combination of, Klopp saying every game counts and every result counts. Is that partly because the other fellas in Manchester, which they don't give you much anyway? We've seen this now: 93-point season, 95-point season, and sometimes it ain't enough. So it's kind of an inbuilt, not fear, but a reality of you can't afford to slip up anyway because City won't give you many. So you've got to hell to leather. But why other clubs don't follow it? I think City do to a point, but maybe the likes of, is it a complacency with some other clubs? Because if, for example, we use the Man United example, they signed Alexis Sanchez on a free on astronomical wages. It flopped. It didn't work. But United can absorb that. Liverpool, we couldn't afford to sign someone for 300 grand a week and it not work out. I don't think we're built in structurally wise to have that. You shouldn't be. But is that then because we have to be a bit more careful than other clubs because we can afford some mistakes, but we can't afford many big ones. Is that just the reality of where we are, which is maybe just honed us a little bit more?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Klopp always says that Liverpool have to find a different way about competing with the big money clubs. We're now in a kind of privileged position where, because of the work that the owners have done off the pitch and built, sponsorship deals and the way they structured the wages and incentivized everything, it's a really good match to what Klopp wants to do. And we're, as I said, we're in a privileged position now where we have all the ingredients for succession planning. I think anyone will be a lawyer to say that they didn't get a little bit fearful of how we're going to go about replacing the front three, how we're going to replace certain players. But already we're starting to see the next generation of players coming through. And I mean, my topic is going to be on Nunez, and we see it with him already. He's got all the ingredients for Klopp to just send him on to another level. You've Harvey Elliott there, they work rate, Carvalho, the work rate out of them. Like, these young players are coming into a team that's peaking, and they know what the task is. The younger players coming up, it's like for like almost. He tells the team when they change up the 11, he doesn't want to play in a different style. He wants them to do exactly what the other player did, and I mean, that's the formula. But like, City have really pushed Liverpool to the standards that they are at. I mean, without City, we probably have loads of titles. We probably have another 2 or 3, probably more.
But we probably aren't breaking 90 points regularly.
Well, no, exactly.
Because you don't need, in a nice way, because you don't need to.
Yeah, no, you don't need to. I mean, if you look at the difference between what's like teams finishing 27 points behind the rest, I mean, the title could be won with 80 points, 82 points, like it used to be.
Because that's the thing, though. You get 80 points now, and it's just like, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. Yeah, you might get third with that. You think, Christ, that was a title challenge like 10, 15 years ago.
But that's the standards, and look, it's good that there's 2 teams battling it out toe for toe, and I think Liverpool can always hold their head up that bit higher because we have went about it the right way. And for all the shit in the bed that fans do about, what if Klopp goes? What if this happens? Well, look, there's nothing to worry about. He's not going. He's not going for another 4 years. And there's plenty of players. Salah's not going for another 4 years. Relax, enjoy it. Hold your head up, and just because I'm telling you now, you won't ever see this again. Not like this. I mean, this is unbelievable to be able to compete with all that money, to be able to just go out and buy whoever they want and pay them whatever they want. Liverpool have to bring in players who are hungry, who are of a certain ilk, who are prepared to work hard for the wages. And if they win things or if they, they meet their incentives, they're going to earn just as much, So it is really, it makes you really proud to support the club compared to them. And that's why we see the sort of behaviour we've seen since it was supposed to be only friendly. And we see all this nasty shit coming up again online from fans, digging up the past about the club. But I mean, it's such a gulf and difference between the 2 clubs.
Yeah, I mean, Kev brings up, to be fair to the club, they should look at doing one more signing with the severity of the Ox injury. I mean, me and Kev have had this debate internally. Said I said, regardless of the Ox injury, they probably should have looked at one more, only because, if I'm honest, when the chips are down, there are still certain players we know Klopp doesn't pick. Ox is one of them. Ox was fit for 80-90% of the season last year. When he got to the business end of the season, wasn't interested in picking him. When you probably could have done with using his legs, which is probably indicative of that's where he says. Which is why the Keita thing, I always think he gets a bit of an unfair stick sometimes, going because when he's fit, Klopp always uses him and uses him a lot. So he obviously does whatever Klopp wants. Now, whether we as fans agree with it is a different matter, but the player clearly is bought what Klopp wants. I'm not saying Ox hasn't bought in, but I just feel like he served his time. He did what he could do. He's never quite got to the same level since that knee injury, which is not his fault, and it's not his fault he's injured. Players don't want to be injured, but I am looking at a player going, I just feel like the club's accelerated to a certain level, and he can't keep up to that, and that's not his fault. It just happens.
Chris, we every season or after every win, though, it seems that we're always one player short. And it never really works out that exact way. It's always come January, we're looking for something different again, because of injuries here, there, or whatever. But
I would argue the last 2 summers though we have been. We were definitely a centre back short. I know we lost 3, but we were a centre back short. And last summer we were a forward short, and we addressed it in January. But if you address that forward in the summer, it's all if buts and maybe.
No, I think if you look at the with the signing, it was just purely based on the fact that Mane was gone, and the deal could be done there and then. I don't think it was.
Well, if you base on the reports, Klopp knew a year ago Mane was going, so he could have tried to get Diaz in the summer and give him a year to bed in rather than 6 months. Yeah,
I'm sure.
If you're playing devil's advocate, Yeah. So I would argue most summers we go in, it feels like one night, but majority of the time we get there or thereabouts.
Oh, we do. But look, if you're talking about the season that we went in, it was crazy because didn't Lovren go, and it left us with 3 senior centre backs, and we brought in a midfielder in Thiago, and it seems strange, to a lot of fans that we were definitely 1 centre back short, but we just 2 centre backs just exploded. You know what I mean? And it was a season that we were miles off the pace anyway, and the concern was not finishing in the top 4. But I mean, that was a freak season. And then you go, now that the shout is we're short a midfielder. They get around to addressing these shortages. They always do, but it's not that simple. It's not a case of just going out and they buy the right players when at the right time with the right deal, right for the club. But I mean, it just always seems to be over exaggerated or overstated how short we are. That midfield is fine. We're going to have an extra body in Elliott all season with preventing another injury. And he's a massive player for us on that right hand side. Where Salah and Trent are brilliant. More progressive than Henderson. But it's going to be Henderson, Fabinho, and Thiago most games anyway.
Probably isn't going to be most games though. Let's be fair. Thiago's not done more than 25 games for us yet. So
no, but when it comes down to who was first choice 3, it's going to be them again.
Yeah, I get that, but it's how often that first choice 3 is going to be available. So then your backup is Keita, who, to be fair, last year fitness wise actually did quite well. Then underneath that, if you're being brutally honest, you've got 3 very talented lads: Jones, Carvalho, Elliott. 3 fairly talented, but three big unknowns. And it's always going into a season what you know and what you hope. And I feel in midfield we're going with a lot of hope. Now listen, hope can turn into be.
Yeah,
I hope these lads
are. But they know a lot more than us.
We do.
It's less unknown to them.
You do, but you've got to go.
They see the numbers, they see what they're able to produce. It's about the system.
But you've got to be fair though. Outside looking in, going, and you do trust them. You have to trust them because, to be fair, the results speak for themselves. But you've got to also say there is a lot of hope in the side. Probably more hope than we've had recently. Most times, out of the last 2-3 seasons, you've had a lot more certainty. I know what that front 3 will do. I know what that midfield will do. I pretty much know what that back 4 will do. This year, there's probably a few more question marks, not negative question marks, where you're going God, these are shite. Well, it's like I'm looking at Nabil El-Zar going, I hope Nabil El-Zar turns out good this year, fingers crossed. It's not, we're not in that realm, but it's just more of a talent's great, the young player's great, but it's how consistent can you get from a young player? And look, your fingers crossed is they're really good. But I do understand the anxiety of some fans around wanting just one more slightly experienced player. But again, who that player is. But
it's gonna be a case of one out, one in. They're not just gonna add another player to that midfield. There's probably 8 players for 3 positions there off the top of my head.
But maybe that's what you need.
Could be 9.
If you want to go, but maybe that's what you need if you want to go deep like we did last time. I mean, how many players we used last time to do 64 games? It's a hell of a lot of players. So you do.
We seem to manage okay, and I don't think it was a shortage of players that really lost it for us in the end. It was just flip of a coin kind of stuff in finals.
Yeah,
going towards the end of the season.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is I can understand the need or the belief of why people like one more. If we don't sign one more, I'm not going to be sitting here crying thinking that's it. League's done, season's done. Not interested. It's not that level.
No, I get that, and new signings are always lovely. Everybody likes new shiny things, and more often than not, they get it right.
They revitalise the squad as well, don't we?
Yeah,
but Nunez will.
Yeah, I think if there was any way that we could have got rid of Vox and brought in a player, that would have happened. It's not going to happen now.
Not with that leg, not his leg hanging off.
And I think, he sees enough in Naby to persevere for another couple of seasons or another season. Is he signing an extension as well? So he's molding Naby into a different type of player. Probably not the player we expected, but I mean, he's definitely got a future in the club.
Yeah, you go. David Lennon's still waiting for Laurie Dalla to come good. God, jump around. Laurie Dalla, didn't we sell him to Fulham? But he looked like the next Robbie Fowler. He was shite in the end, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean the days. It's a funny point.
I've not been called that for ages.
It's a funny point, but it's a true point. We used to I remember the month we sold Luis Suarez and brought in just a bunch of lads, hoping that it would come good. Those days are well and truly over.
But you made a good point, Pete. I mean, they looking at United, like it's kind of
it's like watching us on the Rodgers a little bit.
Yeah, it's rudderless. They're trying to find the answers just to make it one lucky sign and that it all comes together then. But what we have like that, we should feel really lucky. They could bring a couple of players in every season. They might bring another player in January, and they're all going to kind of just go in behind the rest.
I just think they've created Klopp and his team. They've created this aura in and around just getting your opportunity to sign for Liverpool, and it seemed players that aren't there. You can see the way players are talking about Liverpool. Even the players that we're not looking at, they have a different way of. I hate using those words like twerking, but almost, hinting that they would be very interested in working with Klopp, in being in and around the club. They've created this exclusivity about coming and being a Liverpool squad member, that I haven't seen before. There's no hit and miss stuff. I mean, to look at a lad like, for example, De Jong's agent at Manchester, talking to Manchester United about he doesn't like, he has problems with Barcelona. He wants to sort of. He doesn't like the state that Manchester United is in at the moment. I mean, there are only so many ways you can reject the club. But when players are thinking and talking about Liverpool, you hear things like, "Yeah, the opportunity to work with Klopp would be amazing. There seems to be something very special going on at Liverpool." That's why I'm super happy, man. And I think if you go out and splash, say, two midfielders right now, it takes away from that. And the players that we've all, for example, Carvalho for me looks to be. I mean, everybody was clamoring. A lot of people were clamoring last year, for Liverpool to re-sign Coutinho. Now you can see why the Klopp was just never interested. He had already, kind of registered his interest in an 18-year-old who was probably going to end up being better than Coutinho ever was. And for me, that's a deliberate thing. I don't think Coutinho was ever going to, be welcomed back to the club. I don't think you cross Klopp once and get a second chance, because that would again destroy the art. And I like that. Whereas I would have been one of the ones kind of thinking before Villa signed Coutinho, maybe we'll bring him back in, try and plug a gap. But that's just not the way it operates.
Oh, and you may have had loads of debates over that, Pete.
No, and the way all of that has developed, I'm really, really happy about that, because it's probably going. Well, it's obviously going around players that listen. You need to be wearing your Sunday best if you're going to get a chance to talk to Liverpool, to talk to Jurgen Klopp. You need to present, get your affairs in order, make sure that you're worthy of signing for Liverpool. We haven't had that order in a long, long time, if ever.
Destination club now.
Yeah, which is it's nice to be, because Christ, it used to be. I hope you used to have players who go like, I hope he doesn't get too good. Why? Because if he gets too good, he's gonna fucking leave. That's how it used to be horrible. People say he's good, isn't he? Oh, he's all right. You were trying to talk the clubs down from Bayern. Oh yeah, he's not Madrid ready though, is he? He's not
Coutinho was perfect for that. And next thing, he just went on to that next level where he was adding so many goals to his game as well. And he just said, like, the writing is on the wall now. There's no stopping this.
Yeah, every free kick felt like a goal. You're like, oh fuck. So you're happy that a bit later you go, oh fuck, he's going to go soon, isn't he? I'm not going to keep on with this long. But now you are a bit less worried, but
worried at all.
But even if they do leave, we shouldn't be as worried.
No, because we've so far recruitment wise. I mean, people talk about there's a big summer coming up with the front three, and there's a big summer coming up with a few other players. But the evolution of Liverpool, like Liverpool version 2 under Klopp, in the works. It's probably in the works now for about 2 years. because when you look at the slow evolution, Jota pretty much come and integrated himself in as a regular when he's fit. Diaz has just slotted in like a glove. Firmino is now a squad option, which is I don't mean disparagingly, but he is a squad option now.
Yeah.
Matip has forced himself back into being a starter, but he knows he's got a young Canati. Joe Gomez 2 years ago was our first choice centre back partner with Van Dijk. Now it's like, well, he might get in the game at right back, which is nice. We get a lot of positions. It's a nice place to be where you are looking, going, this is all right, isn't it? We all get to that point where a lot of first teamers are slowly becoming squad players. I do think, long term, that's where Henderson will become. Henderson will be the new Milner.
Yeah,
and I think he knows that already. I just think how quickly he's moved to that new Milner, I think, is not as quick as some of our fan base would probably like, and I think that's really going to upset them.
Look, eventually they're going to be right 7 years later. He will be second fiddle in our midfield, but right now he still stands there as one of the first choice picks, and he never lets us down. If you look at when Pep talks about the team, I mean our Pep, he just talks about how players like Henderson can maintain that intensity that's required, and he just understands. And Liverpool just don't tick the same without these players that have the ability to do that. And if we're replacing players, they need to be able to do the same. And I think it's important that you hang on to players like Milner and Firmino as long as possible, because that's part of the succession planning. Because these are leaders. These have seen it, done it, and they can help players coming through. I mean, Carvalho's going to need help, and players like Firmino will be excellent. I know they're not the same position, but it's just the attitude and settling in to the team, and he's going to have to play a different game. And already you can see how deep Carvalho goes back to pick up the ball and carries it. Like, it's excellent.
Yeah, as Dazzle says, nobody's saying they want to live in London these days, which is true. That used to be the big bug. Nobody wants to live up
Everybody knows London's a shithole now. That's why.
It's having been there, we'll talk about that one day yesterday. It's fucking hot though. Jesus, it's too hot.
No,
too hot.
I think
it's too hot for a northern lad. Don't go down south. It's far too hot.
Yeah, I think the Salah situation kind of put everything to bed. Mohammed Salah could have went and played for anybody in the world. Anybody in the world, no matter what anyone said. And you could see that all he wanted was to get his negotiation done with Liverpool and stay at Liverpool, because Salah knows that if he wants to continue being the top-rated player on the planet, that he needs to do that at Liverpool. Simple.
Yeah, look, he only ever wanted to stay at Liverpool. There was no other destination for a player like him, a player with the hunger, with his attitude. There was only one place, but he wanted the deal. He wanted a big deal, and look, it catches you in the back of the throat a little bit. You don't really want your players trying to milk the club, but I mean, we can look at it now and say they came to an agreement. The club value him as much as he values himself, and as much as we all value him as a player. But look, there was no question about it. He always just wanted to stay there.
And also, Pep Lind's book's out next week, which I'll be honest, I think that'd be an interesting read there.
Yeah, he seems bright. Be interesting to see what he has to say. Hope he doesn't say too much. To be honest.
No, I heard him talking about it. You could sit there, listen to him talking all day long. Be interesting to see how that translates into a book. Because it is his charisma, and the way he talks about football, and the way he talks about what they're trying to do. It's fascinating.
Cool. So, Andy, let's go on to who's your winner?
My winner is Darwin Nunez Roberto, Liverpool's new.
Never heard of him.
Look, I got a bit concerned, like everyone else, when I seen him, with people getting on his case so quickly, not because I didn't believe him, just because how that would impact him personally. The comparisons with Haaland. I'm hearing myself back there. What's going on there? You hear me twice?
I did twice then, yeah. Somebody's phone's quite close by as well.
Probably the power of Nunez, amplifying your voice.
It's my phone anyway. Look, the comparisons being made with Haaland, like City bringing in their top big striker and us bringing in ours. Benfica fans had a bit to say about not being as good as we rated them. Our own fans getting stuck in after the training clips and he missing a few chances, and then in his first game. But then look, bang, he got us 4 goals in that game. Then he comes up against Haaland, and all the talk is
oh no, the big men are coming for Andy.
Shit.
That joke's never going to end, is it?
No. They've been up to their old tricks again, I can tell you. Anyway, but look, he comes back. He comes on off the bench, and he answers that call perfectly. That's very annoying. Whose phone was that? That's Pete, isn't it?
That's Pete.
He's very shifty. Very shifty.
Gone.
That's Pep messaged him now. I thought he said.
Look, he might be a bit different to what we've had before. But in saying that, I don't actually think we know exactly what we have just yet. His physical appearance, his work rate. I think he's very imposing. He's all the ingredients for Klopp and the staff to launch him onto all new levels, to make him proper world class. I think anyway. He strikes me as the type who'll really reward you. With the belief and encouragement, and as we all know, Klopp's camp are the masters of motivation and getting the best out of players. So that's why I think Nunez is my winner this week. I think he's had to answer critics very early in his career. I think it's nonsense. They've tried to even make him out to be more expensive than we actually paid. Opposition fans, even our own fans, have been up to all sorts of tricks to unsettle him. But he's brilliant. He's going to suit the league so well. He's going to suit us so well. And he looks hungry. And, to score a goal in the last couple of minutes in such a meaningless game, and he ran off celebrating like he did. And he seemed to enjoy himself picking up his Community Shield medal as well. So I love that. I think he's, early days, but I think he's going to excite us a lot.
Yeah, Pete, I mean, just like Friday nights, Kev is always stealing my points and claiming the zone. Wait for that next Friday, Kev. But Kev makes a good point. It's the runs he makes, his willingness to be on the shoulder. He lives between the lines of the penalty box, and he's rapid. Which I think for those who haven't seen Nunez, look, I confess, I think I'd seen Nunez play about 4 games before we signed him. 2 of them were against us. You do have the worries of, I hope it's not an Andy Carroll where we're just going to launch it all the time, which we do occasionally. He does, I mean, to be fair, he's that big. You've got to try it at some point, a big fella. But I like the fact that he's the opposite to Bobby. Bobby likes, as a 9, drops deep to link play for the 2 wide players. He's like, no, I'm the focal point through the middle. I'll be between the sticks. And look, he's not as clinical as probably yet as people would like, but A, it's friendlies, and B, he's still young, and players will miss chances. But I like the fact he's getting himself in the positions where it gives us a different option. But I also think, while, yes, it is a meaningless friendly, City and Liverpool weren't playing it that way. And to play that well against City for half an hour, that does probably gives me more confidence in a player than doing well against RB Leipzig. Because to be honest, I'm dubious of German football anyway, because we always think German football is really great, and then we see in Europe they all get spanked. So he's thinking it's maybe not as great as we think it is. But doing that to City does sort of make you think, all right, okay, that does make you take notice a bit more of a player.
Yeah, 100%. I think, to be honest with you, I always look for one thing. If a fella is not, as a centre forward, if a fella is not scoring goals, how is he affecting the game? I mean, and the direct comparison was there, the game, the weekend, when Haaland is not scoring, he just looks a little bit, like it's getting to him, and the touches aren't there. So if you're not having a great day in front of goal, get your back to it. Use that big body of yours, hold it up, and bring other people into the game and try and make things happen that way. He looks like the sort of fella that is not only willing to do that, but he's well capable of doing that. He's big, strong. Here, I didn't know he was as quick as when I saw him getting away from Diaz for the chance that, in fairness, the goalkeeper did very, very well. But he's lightning fast. Lightning for the fella that's that big. He moves. So it kind of nullifies that whole idea. Oh, are we going to go long? Are we going to go there? And listen, we're not averse to going long in the right situation. With Liverpool, it's the right ball at the right time. If you look at probably for me, the best goal we've scored in years was that the night we were beaten at Manchester City by Manchester City. There was short balls, long balls, inside balls, also all sides until the right ball.
The long passes, though, Pete.
Exactly.
They're not long. They're not long searching balls.
For me, do you have the capability to deal with what comes? And he seems to. He has a bit of Cavani in him. He has a bit of pace. He hasn't got anything that, for me, that I've seen. I'd like to see a little bit more. It's a bit hard expecting a 22-year-old young player to dominate in those kind of grey areas between lines, but he will learn that from playing with us. But certainly he's got all the raw attributes that you would want to have a forward-thinking player, and he run the channels for you, and he understands how to interchange positions, which is going to be very important when you're playing with the likes of Mohamed Salah and Diaz. So no, he's more than a handful. This is a deliberate signing. Whereas again, I think Manchester City will have to get the ball into the box early, which is not something that they do. In order for him to be effective, you want to disrupt people, to disrupt defenders before they can get set. Where City's game is about moving people around. I just, barring the big goal, the goals he's going to score against the little sides, I can't see him having a huge effect, against the likes of us or big games in the Champions League. I stand to be corrected.
Fair enough. So I wasn't actually told to do any wins or losers, but I said I'm going to do my own anyway because I do my own thing. And to be fair, Bonkers already brought it up, so I'll bring it up. I've got a winner and a loser. My winner is not the England winners; it's the Euros. As people know, I'm a big advocate of women's football. I've been going Liverpool women for about 6 years, so I was lucky to be at the final yesterday. That was one of the best days out I've had in ages. It was dead fun, and it's not the typical England brigade that we all know, we all dislike with the men's team. It was a proper family atmosphere, no segregation. German fans, England fans, Swedish fans all sat together, and it was just genuine laugh. But also, the big thing and I'm guilty of this, to say it's a great atmosphere, and of that, it was a really good game of football. Germany were brilliant, very unlucky to lose 2-1. England played very well, and it's now starting to get to a point now you're going like the losers are tied into this. And I see them all the time. The dickheads go, nobody cares. Well, just to be clear now, after that final, that is a Euro record for attendance, which is 87,100, whether you're a man or a woman. So when England men got to the Euros final against Italy, it didn't get to 87,100.
Phenomenal.
So to say no one gives a shit about it, well, more went to that than the men's final. So admittedly, probably more went to the men's final by smashing gates through and all that, but we'll talk about that less. But it's just more of a thing I'm going to bring up because, it's a thing I've never done with my daughter. It's something I never thought I'd do. I took my daughter to it. It was a great atmosphere. It was just a great feeling. And it's that sort of, Pete, you're a big talker of this, the equality of the most shocking thing I've heard, I think Ian Wright came out of it, was the aim is in the next 3 years in England that for 75% of schools, girls will be offered football in PE, which blew my head because I thought it was standard that everyone was offered the chance to play football. Whether you could, not because every person's going to be a Rizzo or a Ellen Toon or a Chloe Kelly, but just the opportunity to play.
There'll be a natural not backlash, but there'll be a natural uptake of football anyway amongst young girls after that. I mean, those girls are heroes and role models in their country. To be honest, what shocked me, Chris, more than anything, was the quality. The pace as well was a little bit better. Some of the deliberate quality, playing out from the back, girls getting the ball with their back to the opposition, and having the awareness to where to turn, little things that I don't see in the women's game. Some of the finishing, the deliberate finish. I mean, the England's force goal last night was as good as anything you'd seen in the Premier League. I mean, the ball bounced up on her a little bit, and she had to take the sting out of it at full pace and lift it over a non-Russian keeper. That is not easy for anybody. So the little things that you would look for, listen, I'm a nitpicker. Sometimes I'd like to see more power in the air. I'd like to see a little bit more, but we're different physiologically, and you have to accept that. But I have to say, the technical quality, moving the ball from back to forward, the comfort on the ball, especially at the back, moving it out from the back, and the movement across the front, from what is now a standard front three, both with England and Germany. I was very, very impressed. And some of the earlier rounds as well. I mean, there was a couple of pacings there. 7-8. I was surprised Norway got done 8-0. But
so I think everyone was surprised.
That happened. However,
put it this way, that's the equivalent of City going to Spurs and doing Spurs 8-0, and you go like, fucking hell, where's that come from? It was a very rare result.
Yeah, but I will say one thing: the Germans lost their best player in the warm up.
They did,
and that had a big effect on them. To be honest,
yeah, she's a player who's been injured on and off now for about 2 years. So basically, she would have missed the Euros if it wasn't for COVID, and it got delayed a year. So she got 6 goals, on course for record goal scorer, and unfortunately pulled up in warm up, which is if you're an England fan, thank Christ, because she's really good.
No, she's probably one of the best players in the world.
But as a personality, in the showcase, you're a bit like, it is a bit shit watching one of the best players miss out in the warm up. Yeah, we saw with Thiago for the League Cup final. You were like, it's a bit shit. He's lost it in that point.
Yeah.
So
the other point is going to make, Chris. I found myself looking at the games and criticising the women fairly. For example, the equaliser that England conceded yesterday. Normally, if I'd have been watching a women's game 6 or 7 years ago, I wouldn't have criticised the defender for getting caught out with the front post and kind of freezing a little bit. And whatever she did, she put her hands down at close quarters. I was like, what are you doing? In order to do that, you have to be looking at the games thinking she's capable of defending better. Therefore, I'm going to criticise her. And that's what I was most kind of impressed with yesterday. She shouldn't have been done at the near post to defend her. But the finish from the German striker, she had that much to aim at between the goalkeeper and the post.
She hit the post she hit the post 2 minutes. To be fair, the keeper tipped it onto the post, but there was I think the girl, the lady is Williamson, the captain, who is
Leah Williams.
What I understand from Arsenal fans, she's a DM and a centre back. She's a bit of probably Javier Martinez. Basically
she fell asleep. She fell asleep.
Yeah, and to be fair to her, it's probably one of the few times she made a mistake, but they reacted to it, and reacted to it quite well, because to be fair, I would say, Germany deserved the equaliser. England probably deserved it overall, but it was a tight game where if Germany won it, you wouldn't go like, oh, it's a smash and grab. You go like, both sides were really good. Project M saying women's game needs to be accessible for everybody again, and now the money's in the sport. Yeah, I mean, the good thing with the WSL is, which is a good thing the Liverpool women are now in it, is a lot of the games now are going to be shown on BBC iPlayer, Sky took some, but every game is also on an FA Player app, which is free. So the accessibility is there. It's actually easier, in a weird way, it's actually easier to find a live women's game now than it probably is to find a live men's game. Some of the live men's games there are ways to find them, but obviously I'm not going to go into them. But do you know what I mean? So, and Kev talks about it because Kev knows about the ability to shithouse the last 7 minutes. Yeah, I must admit that was the best 7 minutes. But Pete, you're right. It's when you're criticising the player, you're not criticising because it used to be talked down to like because it's a woman. I'm criticising because that's how I criticise a bloke.
And I'll be open about it. Listen, we all have our biases.
What you get beaten there for?
Andy will back me up on that. We all have our biases. Let's be honest. You'd look at it and go, but I was looking at it going, she should do better there. Because early in the tournament, I've seen defenders do better there. And it's a blind spot for men's defense. I mean, Harry Maguire, for example, falls asleep.
She's not that bad.
In those situations. So, and he's paid God knows how much. However, I found myself fairly criticising. When you're fairly criticising someone, regardless of their sex, that's when you know something it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, women were allowed to play football again in the 1970s. It's actually, in terms of sport, it's actually a young sport. It's like 50 years old, which is not talked about enough. And the authorities, the FA, and that get away with a lot. There's banning agenda from playing football, and it's only been professional a very short period of time. There's a lot of questions to be asked there. To keep on at 1971 before women could play football again, which is it's a mental thing that because you're a woman you can't play football. I find that bizarre. But I'll be honest, Pete knows this, and I've said this on many a podcast. One of my favorite games last season was Liverpool winning promotion against Bristol, which I went to. and that was the biggest emotional roller coaster. And I'll be honest, you should have had a fan cam on me just watching me lose me shit and get really upset when it was like when we're 4-2 up with like a minute to go, and I'm still thinking, shit, we might not get promoted today. And, you know, the mental thing. It was the equivalent I could put of Liverpool go for top 4, and you go, fucking hell, they messed, you know, like a 4-0 up, and you're still panicking they might lose it. So, but that's it. Yeah. So that's my winners. That's my winners. And the losers is the dinosaurs that still live in the world. Which, if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I'm pretty open with that. If you don't like women's football, you don't like women's football. You don't have to be a twat about it. That's my thing. You don't have to be a bell end about it. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Well, that was
you don't have to belittle it. That's the bit I can't be arsed with.
That was going to be my point, really, about the whole thing is what this does to expose certain people. You know, we're a society now where we challenge our thoughts, you know, a lot more than we used to, whether that's on race, religion, gender, and I just love to see people who are just Neanderthals get found out, you know, for holding these generalizations. It can only be a good thing as well for English football. I didn't find myself normally being up for the team that were playing against England. I actually wanted England to win because I think it's just going to be a general good thing for your country. So like, I mean, it's brilliant. I didn't even realize that was almost 90,000 there. That's brilliant, because the criticism was always that sponsors wouldn't put money into it because they didn't have the same interest. But now it goes to prove that maybe big corporations should get their finger out our arse and start investing and sponsoring women's sport as well, and make these ladies who are clearly very talented make them better paid and make it an attractive career for young girls. And it's mad there like that there's people in schools that aren't even allowed to play. We've similar carry on here with the Gaelic football and with rugby and certain sports not being allowed in certain schools. And again, it just goes back to challenging the thoughts and the rules of people that have went before you. But the atmosphere actually was brilliant. You're talking about people being all together from different, you know, the German fans were with the England fans.
Yeah. Because a lot of people could buy tickets quite far. So like me, I bought a ticket 3-4 months for the tournament, just more to go to a final. I didn't actually know if England would get there. Yeah. And I think a lot did that. So when you had your ticket allocated, so we had a German lady who was about three rows in front of the angle. And when Germany equalised, she sat because she's surrounded by England fans, sat quite quietly. And they all knew she was German fan. They all said, go on, you know you want it. She just jumped up and went, you know, come on, Germany. Obviously, Deutschland. And we all cheered. She went, funny. Yeah. But it's like, it's still like, you could be disappointed that you've equalised. But, you know, again, it was more like, you still have a laugh about it because football's football. Yeah. It's supposed to be fun.
No, it was a really good family type of atmosphere, and we're very used to that here in Ireland with the Gaelic football. You go to Croke Park for a ladies' final or a men's final. You're sitting next to your opposition. There's no hassle. Kids are there, and you know, I've been at a few away games over the years, and it's only when you have kids you start to question: is this the right environment? Like, there's absolutely no chance I'd bring my lad to Paris for a Champions League final. I was, you know, but you bring them to Croke Park, no problem. You know, it's a much more accessible, safe environment for your kids, or bunches of kids going or whatever. And you could hear it in the crowds. There was a lot more kids, you know, and one of the biggest complaints at the moment about our own ticketing system in Liverpool is it's not accessible for young kids, mates. You know what I mean? Which is what sport is about. It's about bringing the youth and the communities together, our friends together. But it's gone so corporate now, and the tribalism is at a all-time peak. You know, that it's become a little bit dangerous for the younger fan to go to. So I think they could learn a lot from the women's game in terms of the family atmosphere.
There's also a myth that, I can also talk for the people that are around me. The myth always was, you only see blokes like me go to women's football because I've got a daughter. I'm taking my daughter. Now, admittedly, that's how I got into watching women's football properly. Took my daughter. There was loads of gang of lads who just came, young and old. Definitely no kids. Definitely there for a day out at the footy. Nothing nasty. Nothing. They were just there to support the footy. So again, it dispels that bollocks of it's only women that go to the women's football, and it's only dads with their daughters that go for. But there's loads of young lads there with their families, and also young lads just on. I've got tickets to a final. I'm going to watch the final. So again, this sort of stereotypical bollocks is there.
Yeah.
Thor points out, say hello to Alan Sugar, who got owned by Ian Wright, who is possibly one of my favourite pundits, and would quite happily go for a pint with Ian Wright or get him on for a podcast. I think we'd have a laugh with Ian Wright on a podcast, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, he always comes across as humble. I mean, I love the ones where he's talking about himself, and his story is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
It is. It's a very unusual. It's probably a story. Probably the closest today is probably Jamie Vardy. As in,
no, I don't think Jamie Vardy.
Well, he went pro at 20. Was he 23?
22. I mean, Jamie Vardy left the non-league for 1 million. Ian Wright was playing Sunday football when he was training at Crystal Palace, and after being rejected by every single other London club.
But I mean, Vardy's the closest. The closest. Yeah. I mean, Vardy's the closest because he went from non-league up. But but he is still. Do you remember have you seen the film Any Given Sunday? Which is about Sheffield United. That's a similar story. It's maybe a story, but again, lad playing Sunday League football ends up playing for Sheffield United.
I just think they broke the mold when they made Ian Wright. Ian Wright's one of those lads. I love street footballers. The last of the great street footballers for me was Robbie Keane. The lad that played football on the streets of Jobstown, Fettercairn, and brought that style of play onto a football pitch. Ian Wright done that. Ian Wright brought Hackney Marches into Highbury and nearly scored 200 goals and a load of goals for England doing it. For me, the only thing I regret about Ian Wright is that he never played for Liverpool. He for me personifies what it would be like as a fan to play at the highest level of football. He absolutely loved it, and he still loves it. It's one of those things that makes you love football even more. Watching him play and listen to him speak about both his own life and his experiences in the game. For me, Jamie Vardy's a spot. I mean, look at his wife getting taken for $3 million the other day because you can't keep her mouth shut about it. That all them people are rubbish. For me,
I meant the football context, yeah, but I know what you mean.
No, but you know what I mean? Ian Wright's the last of the true normal lads from the pub that made it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I know. I mean, the biggest hype we've got at the moment is there's a lad playing for Tranmere, I think, who's done a similar thing, was Sunday League 2 years ago, and he's now he's playing pro football for Tranmere. But I mean, that's League 2. This is a guy who went from Sunday League to Premier League. And was scoring FA Cup finals. It's a hell of a story. I mean, obviously, then his post career is even better because he's a great pundit. He's a very good advocate of women's football. He's a very good advocate for people's rights in general. So
he's a good bloke. He's a good human. I mean, have a look. There's a clip on YouTube if you get a chance to look at it of him. They surprised him. I think he was still playing at the time with his school teacher, and he burst into tears because this man is alive. You can't fake that. You can't fake what Ian Wright is. A lot of people fake. I'm a man of the people. I'm humble. I'll throw £500 at this guy. But Ian Wright bursts in, and he turns into a child. He takes his hat off, all the body language stuff. Like, he's genuinely emotional that man is both alive and there. It's Ian Wright's. They broke the mold and they made guys like him.
Cool. I mean, look, there will be more women's stuff in this season. I'm hopefully going to try and get Neil Atkinson again back on the women's show with Philippa Smallwood, but I'm hopeful. Obviously, I mean, to be honest, she's probably still celebrating, which is Emma Sanders from the BBC. She's probably still celebrating this, but we'll try and get her on for a special part just to talk about the experience of the Euros, but also from a reporter's point of view, because Emma's followed women's football for a long time, reported on the women's football for a long time. And if you don't follow Emma Sanders, follow her. She's done a Twitter thread talk about her BBC career, and it shows that she's interviewed majority of that squad. And something was like when they broke into Bristol 4 or 5 years ago, or when they were just come back from an ACL injury where people didn't know who they were. So it's quite a nice thing for Emma because obviously she's built a BBC career, and a lot of these players she's got to do interviews with. So it's also quite a nice story. And also, it's nice to have a different point of view from it. Well, listen, lads, before we go, anything else you want to add? Andy, anything else?
No, all good. It's been enjoyable.
Good. Are you going to come back on, Andy, or is that you done for the season?
Yeah, that's it. I'm done now.
That's it. You've done one show. That's it. No, I'm sure we'll have you back soon. And Pete, always good to talk to you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, man. Just a huge shout out to everybody in the comments. You know, they don't think that we don't see them and that we don't want to mention them all. I mean, it's phenomenal. You know, it's always a lot of the same faces, but a lot of really great points there. So big shout out to everyone and thanks a million.
Yeah.
Except for Andy Cheese.
Yeah, except for Andy Cheese. Yeah, fair enough. And Red Steve, because he just doesn't like me. So, you know, fair enough. He's probably got a point to fair. Joe, before we go, I forgot. Bobby's Wish to Walk, our charity. You know, I think he's doing really well, getting really close to his target. But links in the description below. All the details are there. Come on, guys. You know, I know we actually do this a lot, but you know, we do it really well. So give what you can. If you can't give, just share it on social media. Put it in your WhatsApp groups. You know, let's get another lad to America and get him some life change treatment so that I can walk again.
Yeah, I met Sienna there for the first time since she's had our procedure over in America, and to see you know, in real life the difference that's made to that girl, it's incredible. So get behind it. It's literally just changed her life completely. She's walking away there, doing more and more things all the time, and I see her little smiley face. It's amazing. She's a trooper, and yeah, let's make it happen again for another kid.
Cool. We'll leave that on that happy note. So let's, guys, just keep an eye on socials. There's pretty much a show every day this week, I'm sure. And Gav's, as always, working hard. So keep an eye out, and we'll have loads more to come. Until then, guys, take care of yourselves. Speak to you soon.